Hey guys, this is EJ Holland with the Wolverine.com back on our YouTube live show, our weekly Wednesday recruiting chats. Remember, Tuesday, Zach Libby and I have a structured podcast with super chats only. On Wednesdays, we do the normal recruiting chats where you guys can comment with any questions you guys have. And I will be here to answer them. If you do want to leave a super chat, you most certainly can. That goes directly to our travel budget and you get bumped up to the front of the line. Let's get some promos out of the way. Make sure to like this video. Subscribe to the Wolverine YouTube channel. I think we're at like 20,800 followers. So let's get that going. The next goal is 25K. Make sure to get us there. If you guys are tuning in or watching the replay, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the Wolverine YouTube channel. That is completely free. If you're not a member of the Wolverine.com, you can sign up today for $29.99 until August 31st of 2023. That gets you premium insider recruiting information, team information, basketball recruiting, NIL transfer portal, and so much more. All at thewolverine.com for $29.99 until August 31st of 2023. You also get to be part of a great message board community over on the fort, and that deal gets you through the late signing period, this Jim Harbaugh drama, official visit season in the summer. So take advantage of the deal today. If you guys remember, it used to be $1, now it's $30. So don't let the price continue to go up. Take advantage of our promotions today. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into your questions. It looks like we have the viewership number growing right now, so more and more people are filing in. So make sure to leave your comments. Let's go with Hal Barber, who says, "Go or stay. Nobody needs this drama every late winter." I agree with you, Hal, for sure, man. I mean, look, Jim Harbaugh said that this would be a one-time thing, and it's now become a two-time thing. We are going through the NFL rumors over and over again, and it's definitely taking a toll on recruiting. There's still offers going out. You can see Mike Elston working hard on the recruiting trail today, actually sent out a couple of offers and has sent out offers over the last week. Jay Harbaugh sent out an offer today as well. So the staff is still evaluating film. They're getting prepared to go on the road on Friday. Keep in mind, guys, that the dead period ends Friday. And what is Michigan going to go sell on Friday? Obviously there is a lot to, you have the back-to-back Big Ten titles. You have the college football playoff appearance yet again. But I mean, what are you going to sell right now? Because the questions you can't really sell that right now because the questions are all going to be about Jim Harbaugh and his status, whether he's going to the NFL or not. That's all anybody's going to care about. Shout out to Brad G with the 199 super chat. And he does have a question. So we'll kind of finish out thoughts on that. But let's go ahead and go to Brad G's question. Do you think staff members are mad that Harbaugh is putting them in this recruiting hole again for the second straight year? It has to be a nightmare for them. I'm sure there's definitely frustration, and I've heard some frustration, but I have also heard that inside the building, they are just managing this, in a more business as usual approach. And so, like I said, the staff is preparing to get out on the road on Friday. The dead period comes to an end. It'll be interesting to see if Harbaugh goes on the road. I think you'll see them hit the road next Monday. So where things stand with the Harbaugh drama at that point will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if Harbaugh goes on the road and sees Jaden Davis again like he did in December. I mean, it is imperative for Michigan to take full advantage of the back-to-back Big Ten titles, the back-to-back college football playoff appearances. If you remember last year, we were in the same predicament. Michigan didn't take advantage of a Big Ten title and a college football playoff appearance. They finished number 20 this recruiting cycle after the early period, which is when most kids sign. And that's definitely not ideal. I mean, this should have been a top 5, top 10 recruiting class. On top of the Harbaugh drama, the NIL situation hasn't been resolved either. So it's just not going great on the recruiting trail right now. And when you're out on the road and you're an assistant coach, and kids are asking you about Harbaugh's status, and you say, we're approaching it business as usual, I'm not sure that's a good enough answer for a guy like a Jaden Davis. Harbaugh obviously released his statement, but it wasn't really a committed statement. He gave himself some outs, as he has done when he's released those types of statements. But more importantly, he had that virtual interview with the Denver Broncos. And obviously, there's contract negotiations going on behind the scenes with Michigan. But these kids are all over social media. They watch TV. They turn on ESPN. All anybody's talking about is Harbaugh in the NFL. They see the interview with the Denver Broncos. So it's interesting, and I think it's definitely having a negative impact on recruiting. And I do think there's probably frustration amongst the coaching staff. But like I said, they are offering guys. They are planning to go out on the trail after the dead period. So that that's kind of that with how the staff is approaching it. But we appreciate your super chat, Brad G. Like I said, guys, if you have a question and you want to jump to the front of the line, then go ahead and make sure to leave a super chat. That money goes directly to my travel budget. Let's scroll down and see what other questions we have. And here's Chris Wilson. Is there any new information on the coaching situation? So our team guys have been on top of it. Chris Ballas, Clayton Safey, and Anthony Broom do a terrific job of covering the team over at the Wolverine.com, but not a ton of new information coming out. Obviously, President Santa Ono announced that he was having a meeting with athletics. There's been continued talks with Jim Harbaugh about the contract, but obviously nothing firm there. And then on the NFL side, it's I thought about it today. Look, I mean, it's not like Harbaugh has an actual NFL offer right now. It's not like he's deciding between, staying at Michigan or taking an NFL offer. He doesn't have an NFL offer right now. Whether he gets one or not remains to be seen. There's been a lot of buzz about the Indianapolis Colts as well as the Denver Broncos, obviously. But the Colts, obviously, Jim is in the Ring of Honor there. But they've already started interviews, and his name hasn't popped up, which is something to monitor whether they actually do a virtual interview or bring him in for an interview. The Broncos, obviously, the more dangerous team and the more talked about team right now, but it looks like from several reports out there, they might be prioritizing Sean Payton. They already have kind of pieces in place to negotiate a potential trade deal. Whether Sean Payton wants to go to Denver or not is another story. And obviously, he can't interview with the Broncos in person for another week or so. So it's not like Harbaugh does have a firm offer. I haven't seen anything in regards to the Houston Texans showing interest or the Arizona Cardinals showing interest or anything like that. So kind of a stalemate for the next few days. We'll see what the Broncos decide to do. Obviously, they're interviewing other candidates as well, and are waiting for Sean Payton. So this could drag on a little longer into next week. And like I said, the dead period's ending on Friday. Monday, the staff is expected to be out on the road. So, what do you do at that point? I guess we'll know more by next week's show. Let's go ahead and go down to Bennett Schuler, and he says, "Do you think JJ McCarthy is a Heisman runner next year?" Obviously, everybody knows how much of a fan I was of JJ McCarthy. I do think he's going to be a Heisman runner, especially if Michigan opens up the offense a little bit more, and you saw what he was capable of in the college football playoff. Yeah, he's made a mistake, or he made a few mistakes, obviously throwing two pick sixes, but this was his first full year as a starter at Michigan. I do think that he has supreme talent, obviously has the arm to make any throw, can make plays with his legs as well. So I think a year of maturity is going to help JJ a lot. I think he's in store for a big season next year. Obviously, getting Blake Corum back is huge. You know, they returned multiple pieces of the offense. So I think JJ is in line for a big season. Let's go ahead and go down to Michigan Rick. And he says, did Harbaugh get any of the recruits from his in-home visits in December? Yeah, he did. He made an in-home visit with Carmelo English along with Ron Bellamy. That was a splash land on signing day, getting a consensus four-star prospect at a position of need. English was the top overall wide receiver target on the board. In fact, Michigan took a little bit of a risk there. They didn't really push for Chance Fitzgerald, who ended up committing to Virginia Tech shortly after Ron Bellamy only made an in-home, not Jim Harbaugh. And so they kind of kept Fitzgerald in that second tier as they prioritized English. That could have backfired since English was down to Michigan and Kentucky. He ultimately signed with Michigan, and a big reason for that was the in-home visit with Jim Harbaugh and Ron Bellamy. Harbaugh also was able to seal the deal on his in-home visit with on 300 defensive back Jair Hill, who is the highest rated signee in the class per on three. If you remember, Hill had gone back and forth between Michigan and Illinois for almost an entire year. He had a dramatic end to his recruitment, but I think the visit that Jair Hill made for the game against Illinois really put Michigan back firmly in the pole position. And I think the in-home visit with Harbaugh and Steve Klingscale was able to seal the deal. So, as much as we talk about Jim Harbaugh and him taking his foot off the gas a little bit in terms of recruiting, he's not a guy that's out there climbing trees or doing sleepovers anymore or anything like that, but he is still Michigan's best closer, in my opinion. His name still carries a ton of weight. His quirky personality still vibes with recruits. And, prospects are always extremely excited when they know that Jim Harbaugh is going to make an in-home or he's going to stop by the school. Harbaugh is one of the most recognizable figures in all of football, at the collegiate and at the professional level. So I still think that Harbaugh can close with guys, and he proved that late in the cycle with Hill and English. Obviously, you would like to see Michigan involved with more high-end prospects this cycle, but we kind of have to wait and see how the situation shakes out with the NFL news. Let's go ahead and go down to KS, and he says, I know you've mentioned several times that they were working on a set salary for all players on the team. Any updates on when it will actually happen? We've continued to report over on the Wolverine that some NIL news will come soon, but it always seems to be soon, 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 soon. Michigan needs to do it now. Are they going to do it now? It doesn't seem like the announcement's going to come tomorrow. So, that is still the plan. There's no definitive timeline. I can't give you an update on when it will actually happen. It'll just be an arbitrary soon. And I know you're tired of hearing that. I'm tired of hearing soon as well. It makes my job a lot more difficult when there's no firm NIL plan in place for recruiting. Other programs have NIL plans in place and they are winning battles. So it's tough to cover Michigan recruiting right now, knowing that NIL has taken over college football and there's no plan in place. But that remains the goal, is to have a base salary for players. What that number will be remains to be seen as well. It'll be interesting to see if it's 50K per year, 75K per year. Some lower level programs like Texas Tech, you already have a base salary model in place, but I believe their salaries are in the 30s or low 40s, something of that nature. I'm sure Michigan can do better than both Texas Tech and SMU. No offense to those home state schools of mine, but I do feel like that's what Jim Harbaugh wants. That's what I've heard from sources within the building saying that Jim Harbaugh has been pushing for the base salary model. And even though that's not a pay for play model in terms of recruiting, I guess you could argue that it is in terms of team. It is something firm that they can sell on the recruiting trail. They can say, hey, if you sign with Michigan and you're an offensive lineman, for example, you're guaranteed to make X dollars. Or if you're a wide receiver, you're guaranteed to make X dollars. Here's the proof. Right now, there is no proof. They're just pointing to deals that individual players have. But what if you're a true freshman and you're a 5-star and you're only getting some snaps? You're going to want some NIL anyway because of your stature as a recruit. So that locks you in with what the base salary model is, and you're guaranteed. If let's just say it's 60, you're guaranteed to make $240,000 at Michigan, plus whatever you make, on the outside with your own deals if you stay all 4 years. So that's something that they want to put in place and pitch. But more importantly, Jim Harbaugh wants to get this done also to take care of the players he has on the roster. He has always been a player's first coach, and he really cares about getting everybody on the team a fair shake. So no updates on when it will happen, but I know that's still the plan. It's always soon, but it needs to be now. Let's go ahead and go down to Go Blue 81. And he says, any news from Tatum, Book Carter, and Beasley leaning our way, or will they be tough to get? Okay, great. We're actually talking about some actual recruits. Let's go ahead and talk about all three of these guys. Let's go ahead and go with Taylor Tatum. First, recent running back offer. Top 100 prospect out of Longview, Texas, ranked as the number 5 running back nationally, number 2 running back nationally on3. I absolutely love Taylor Tatum. He is an elite level running back that is highly productive at one of the best high school programs in the competitive state of Texas. He has great 200-meter times for a guy who doesn't run track as much as most guys do. It's his third sport because he's actually a major league level type baseball player. In fact, Michigan's baseball staff recruited him first and then passed him along to the football staff. So Tatum is a high level football recruit. He's a high level baseball recruit. And I love kids like that. I love kids that are great at baseball. There's just some type of athleticism and hand-eye coordination required in baseball that I think translates over well to football. I always sucked at baseball, and I know how difficult it is to excel in that sport. So if you're a high level baseball player, I really put a lot of stock in that when I do my own personal evaluations. But Tatum is an elite back. Michigan, I think, needs to land one of Taylor Tatum and Jordan Marshall, who's a fellow top 100 running back out of Ohio and is visiting this weekend. Tatum was looking to potentially visit Michigan this month. January 21st has been thrown around, but not completely locked in. Tatum does want to get to Ann Arbor to meet with both the football and the baseball staff. I do expect that visit to take place this offseason, and he's super open. He's not a lock to go to Texas or to Texas A&M or LSU. He's a guy that's very wide open with his recruitment, taking a look at national programs across the board. But I'm a big fan of Tatum. I think he's the number 1 back, or I would have him as the highest graded back on Michigan's board right now. Just a really, really special athlete. Mike Hart needs to make an impact here. As we talked about on the podcast yesterday with Zach Libby, and it was actually Zach that pointed this out, there are only 2 top 10 running backs nationally right now that Michigan is truly in the mix for, Tatum and Marshall. So again, it is a must for Michigan to land one or the other this cycle. So hopefully for Michigan, Tatum does make his trip this month, despite all the Harbaugh drama going on. Let's go ahead and move on to Boo Carter, who was one of my favorite prospects to watch in the offseason, or last offseason, I should say. I saw him on several different occasions on the club 7-on-7 circuit, as well as at a couple of camps. And he is a 4-star. He's listed as a safety, but he's an athlete. 4-star athlete out of Tennessee. Uh, Currently ranked as a 4-star on 2 sites, as a 3-star on 2 sites. Man, Boo is really undervalued. I really like Boo as a 4-star. I think he's a top 300 prospect all the way. Super versatile athlete that can play everything from wide receiver to safety to cornerback. Michigan actually likes him as a nickel. Steve Klingscale, Michigan's co-defensive coordinator and area recruiter in the state of Tennessee, has made Boo Carter a top overall priority. Carter has made multiple visits to Michigan already. I think right now Michigan is firmly in that top group. Carter actually released a top 5 with Michigan in it. So, it wasn't one of those top 10, top 12, top 15s. It was a small group of 5, and Michigan's there. I think Tennessee might have the slight advantage right now, being the home state program, being more NIL friendly, but Clinkscale has done a tremendous job here. And I think Michigan is a legitimate player for Boo Carter, who, in my opinion, again, is one of the most important targets in the secondary in the 2024 recruiting cycle. Let's go ahead and talk about Jeremiah Beasley, on 300, in-state linebacker out of Belleville, state champion Jeremiah Beasley. Man, I love Jeremiah Beasley. I think he's one of the most undervalued recruits in the state of Michigan. I'm not sure exactly where he's ranked. I think our producer Hutch is pulling it up on the back end, but I've been a big Beasley fan for more than a year right now. And it looks like right now he is ranked as the number 250 overall prospect on the On3 consensus. Both On3 and 24/7 have him ranked as a top 300 prospect. ESPN doesn't have him ranked at all. That's bad. And Rivals has him ranked as a 3-star, which is equally as bad. I think Beasley is a top 300 prospect all the way. He's listed at 6'1", 210 pounds. So he's not a really tall backer, but height doesn't really matter to me. He's an inside guy all the way, but he's a perfect fit for Michigan's defense, which might be inflating my thoughts about him just because I cover Michigan. So when I'm evaluating, I'm also thinking about how they fit into the scheme. And Beasley is that perfect Junior Colson type of replacement. He gets sideline to sideline in a hurry. He's extremely physical. He's really comfortable in pass coverage. This is a kid that has a lot of experience playing running back as well. Scored a couple of touchdowns this year. Junior Colson actually grew up playing running back as well before moving over to linebacker. Also, like Junior Colson, Beasley spends a lot of time playing 7-on-7 for his club team, Sound Mind, Sound Bodies Max X, where he plays all over. He plays linebacker. I've seen him even play some corner, and he's really, really impressive. Normally in club 7-on-7, it's an extra tool for linebackers to work on their cover skills, and they're not really plus players in the actual games. But guys like Colson, guys like Beasley with that high level speed and high level athleticism, they really shine in those types of events. So that's what Michigan needs at the linebacker position. I don't really think they got a Beasley like player this past cycle. They got a bigger thumper in Samaj Bridgman. They got a guy that's just really good in a lot of areas in Hayden Moore. But I think Jeremiah Beasley is that scheme fit that they need. And I think him being an in-state guy makes him even more important. He just released his top group. I think this is more of a Michigan State battle. Michigan State does have a family tie here. His brother Malik Carr plays for the Spartans. So that has a lot of Michigan reporters very optimistic about where the Spartans land, and they should be. I think, like I said, Michigan State's right up there. But I do think Michigan's done a really impressive job here. Beasley's been on campus for multiple visits, including a couple of game days. He saw Michigan beat down Michigan State in the Big House this fall. He's bonded well with Michigan linebackers coach George Hilo. He has a special relationship with area recruiter Steve Klinkscale, who has done a terrific job of recruiting kids around the state of Michigan and specifically in Wayne County. So I do think that that Klinkscale is playing a big factor here. I know Michigan has had some troubles with recruiting out of Belleville in the past, but Klinkscale has mended the fences there. Jermaine Crowell has been tossed out of high school football coaching, so no need to really worry about him and his tumultuous relationship with Harbaugh. So I think this will be a fair recruitment. On top of that, Beasley is just a Michigan type of kid, man. He's a 4.0 student, really cerebral player. Like I said, great student in the classroom. So Beasley would be one of my must lands in 2024 for Michigan. I think the Wolverines need to get him on board all the way. Let's go down to Theodore Dodge, and he asks, hoping a transfer question counts as recruiting, EJ. I will try my best. Do you think Nugent starts at center over Crippen? Nugent is 6'1". Is that a concern? 6'1" is pretty short, but if you're going to be an offensive lineman at 6'1", it is center. I do think they brought in Nugent for a reason. I do think he will start. I was just never high on Crippen as a recruit. I think everybody knows that. And so I've been surprised with all the Crippen buzz. Like, what has he done in a winged helmet to give you all this confidence? Like, I mean, there's been some positive practice reports. I mean, Lewis Hansen was the scout team player of the week like every week, and he just entered the portal. Like, I mean, who cares? Like, we haven't seen Crippen do anything. So I do think they brought in Nugent for a reason, and I wouldn't rule out Raheem Anderson either. I know he had been slotted in at guard in the past, but he was a terrific high school center. I actually had Raheem graded higher at center than I did Greg Crippen, because I loved Raheem's nasty streak, which I didn't really feel like Crippen had. On top of that, Raheem was just a really vocal leader that a lot of teammates gravitated towards, and I think that's what you need at the center position. I think one thing that does play in Crippen's favor is that there's chemistry there with JJ McCarthy. Crippen obviously was JJ's center at IMG Academy for a year. They spent a lot of time working together. So that's something that could play a role. But I think the center battle is going to be pretty open. I think Nugent will be the starter, but I do feel like that one's more of an open competition. Let's go down to Kenma. Are the Damani Jackson rumors true? So there are some rumors floating around that former five-star recruit Damani Jackson, who grew up a Michigan fan and ended up signing with USC despite his friendship with Will Johnson, will be entering the transfer portal. However, Damani has yet to enter the portal. NIL was a big negative factor against Michigan, even though they did try to make an NIL run, which was pretty surprising. Michigan still hasn't fixed NIL, so I'm not sure how much that changes. I do think it's something to monitor. Obviously, like I said, Jackson grew up a Michigan fan. His father, Randy, is a terrific guy. Great knowing him throughout the process. He grew up a Michigan fan as well. I mean, I still remember the first day I met Randy, and I asked him where Michigan stood with Damani, and he told me they hadn't heard from Michigan at all. And, I sent a message to the powers that be, and that changed very, very quickly. And it was really fun covering Damani and Will throughout that entire cycle and seeing the friendship they both formed. Damani's recruitment was frustrating to cover, though, so I'm not really sure if I'm ready to cover that one again. But to answer your question overall, I wouldn't say the rumors are true right now. I mean, Damani is not in the portal. He is still with USC. He despite growing up a Michigan fan and having ties to the Midwest, he spent most of his life in Southern California. He played at Mater Dei, which is a very USC friendly school as well. So right now, I wouldn't invest too much into it, but you can continue to monitor and hope. I still feel like Damani is a terrific player and will be a terrific player down the line, despite not getting much action as a freshman. Remember, Damani was recovering from an injury that sidelined him for a lot of his senior season as well. So we'll see. I mean, right now, again, I wouldn't go crazy over it, but I guess anything is worth monitoring these days. Let's go down to Shadyville03. He says over under 2.5 top 100 signees in the 2024 class. That is a good question, Shadyville03. Michigan finished with 0 top 100 signees this cycle. Unless they're able to get Nicholas Harbor, they'll end with 0 in February. If they are able to get a Harbor, that would still only be 1 top 100 signee. So I think right now the safe answer is probably under if I'm Vegas, because there are too many unknowns. I mean, I don't know if Jim Harbaugh is going to be at Michigan. If I were to bet, will Jim Harbaugh be at Michigan? I guess. But that's not a certainty. No man knows the future. And then on top of that, to compete with most top 100 recruits, you need a strong NIL program. And right now, Michigan doesn't have that. We're continuing to hear that they will, that it'll come soon. But again, no man knows the future. So there's just too many unknowns. I mean, I would take the under just because of the unknowns. All right, guys, we've hit 30 minutes. Oh, we had a super chat that never got answered. So you can blame that on our producer, Hutch. I sincerely apologize to Nick. And he says, it's time to panic. We are screwed in recruiting. Jaden Davis is persona non grata, and we will be lucky to end up with a top 2024 class. F this. Well, maybe that's why our producer Hutch did not pull that up. But well, Nick, at the very least, you are very passionate. Is it time to panic? I think it's time to be very worried for sure. I'm extremely concerned as we head towards the end of the dead period that this is going to be a repeat of this past cycle, which isn't very fun. And if you have another class that finishes barely inside the top 20, that's certainly not a recipe for success on the field. So I'm not going out in a full blown panic yet until I would say it's time to really start to panic if Harbaugh gets offered an NFL job. Until then, it's time to get very worried and get very frustrated. It is extremely frustrating, and I don't have any issue getting with people getting overly frustrated because here we are again. It sucks. I feel your pain even as a Michigan reporter. It's just a crappy situation. I had to stop myself from cussing like 3 times because it's that bad of a situation. But full blown panic, we'll kind of reserve that until Harbaugh either A gets an offer or B actually goes and interviews in person. All right, let's go down to I had a brain fart there. We are over time, so let's go rapid fire. I got caught up with that super chat there. Let's go rapid fire. Shadyville03, is Michigan recruiting Justin Scott on the defensive or offensive line? Alabama actually likes him along the offensive line, but Michigan is recruiting him as a defensive lineman. For those of you that don't know, Justin Scott is a 5-star prospect out of Chicago, Illinois. Most schools are recruiting him as a defensive lineman. He's listed as such, but he also starts along the offensive line for his high school, and some schools do like him there. But Mike Elston is leading the way in that recruitment and loves him as a defensive lineman. And so do I, though I think he could play on either side of the ball. He's a really impressive athlete. Let's go down to let's see, a lot of angry comments here. Let's go down to, is there any chance Hill transfers out before playing with Michigan like Xavier Worthy? All those circumstances would be different. I think it's too early to tell. If Jim Harbaugh does bolt for the NFL, that's certainly a possibility. Right now, I would say that Jair's fine. He picked Michigan for a reason, and he'll have a chance to compete for a starting job with DJ Turner and Jamon Green heading off to the NFL. Let's go down to I think that was it. That was the last question. All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for joining me again on our Wednesday recruiting chats. I know these have been a little tiresome over the past couple of weeks with the Jim Harbaugh saga. Hopefully that's resolved soon. But either way, I'll be here every Wednesday to give you the latest on that saga and how it pertains to Michigan recruiting. Like I said, guys, like this video, subscribe to the Wolverine YouTube channel. That is completely free. Liking this video helps with the algorithm. And if you're not a subscriber to the Wolverine.com, you can get more of my thoughts there, more insider recruiting information for just $29.99 until August 31st of 2023. Hope you guys enjoy your Wednesday.